everyone. Today I'm going to be briefly discussing the film Rocky, and I put this in the classic category because I think it's just been so relevant in movie culture that I almost cannot not put it in this category, especially for how famous it has become over the years. So, yes, I'll be discussing this one today. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of the uh, fan requests that someone had in regards to the films that he would have liked me to review. I will see if I can get a hold of those films, but unfortunately at the moment I cannot. So I have to skip the fan requests and wait until I can finally watch the films before I make a review of it. So I'll try to see if I can find the films within this coming week. I may or may not be able to, but we'll see how it goes. But I hope I can get those movies in too, because I think those are definitely ones worth mentioning. So that's basically that. But without further ado, let me discuss Rocky. Yes, Rocky. This movie has not only been referenced a lot, it has been discussed numerous times. There's probably been various parodies as well in regards to, the film and its scenes, and it's said to be probably one of the films that sort of launched Sylvester Stallone's career, so it only makes sense that it becomes sort of this classic among film making. Now, I think the reason for this film being praised so much, and to the extent that it has been praised, is because of rather how simplistic and down-to-earth it is. This movie is very likable. In particular because we have Rocky as the main character, who is a very likable character. This character is one that you can identify with, is one that you kind of want to be around, is the guy that's just the simple man, just wants to work hard and achieve something. It's very, very powerful in its simplicity. It has a simplistic way of approaching its plot as well as its characters, but there's still a lot of depth and intrigue to the characters as well as the whole story, because the story isn't really necessarily a boxing movie. People like to make it seem like this is such a big boxing movie, but boxing is really sort of downplayed in this Rocky movie in particular, just the first Rocky, and it's more focused in on his relationships with various people, whether it be the girlfriend, whether it be her family member, who is basically a drunk, whether it be with his trainer. It's sort of focused in on more of relationships, and you do get some training, and then you do have the final fight, but it's all fairly brief. But I think it's designed to be that way because it's intended to sort of have this build-up and have a sense of structure to the film that doesn't revolve around essentially just training the whole dang time and focusing on boxing the whole way through. And I think that's what makes it a identifiable film, regardless of whether or not you enjoy boxing. So again, it has this sort of simplistic way of reaching out to a lot of different people by not focusing in so much on boxing, but the relationships that the boxer ultimately develops and how those relationships sort of affect his ability to go out there and try to achieve something. So, really that's what the film is really designed to be in a nutshell. And you can take it for what it's worth. I'm sure there's some people who would say that this film is just too simplistic, but I wouldn't say so. I think it does have a sense of heart and a sense of um, care, and I think I think what's interesting about this film in particular, and I think of a lot of films that are made like within the past, is that they really focus on a lot of more male-like virtues of achievement and strength uh, and the ability to overcome uh, whatever results and go through various trials and errors to ultimately become the winner and the achiever. So those, I think, are really, really emphasized within this film. These more traditional roles for, I think, men in particular, and I think a lot of the male audience, I think, identifies with that. Even as a woman, I identify to a certain extent. I guess it makes me root for the male figure, not necessarily making me want to be the male figure, but ultimately I admire what the male figure ultimately accomplishes. So again, there is this kind of traditionalism, I think, within the film that some people, I think, can really gravitate towards. Some people may not gravitate towards it as much as others. Personally, I do find it very enjoyable as a film because of how virtuous and likable these characters are. And even though they do have flaws, they do kind of resemble a little bit of what to they kind of resemble a sort of traditional approach of ultimately going out and achieving something, and sort of the happiness and the sense of fulfillment that ends up resulting from going through those trials and errors. Even though it's not presented so much in the extent of boxing itself, I'd say it's more presented within Rocky's surroundings because, again, he is growing up in a rather more poor side of town and not really as lucrative side of town, and he's just seen as just some average boxer, and to kind of come and sort of transform into the sort of Italian stallion like he's referenced in the film, shows you that it doesn't matter where you're from or where you are within society, there's still the ability to kind of go out there and ultimately find happiness and comfort by accomplishing something, because it ultimately reciprocates back to you from other people. And I think that's really what Rocky did as a film did a really good job of. There's not just highlighting the trials and tribulations of going and achieving something, but ultimately the final recognition that you get from that achievement, and how it impacts a lot of people in your life, and it makes them feel happy and proud of you, and that's what I think really true pride is. It's caring for other people, and then ultimately them realizing that you've worked so hard to achieve something and giving you that recognition when you do achieve something. So that's really, I think, what Rocky as a film was trying to address. And I think as a boxing film, it really works. I don't think there's been any other kind of boxing film that really focuses on this. But again, I will admit Cinderella Man did implement various elements, in particular with the whole struggle of the depression and so what. I'd say Rocky and Cinderella Man are both unique in their own special ways. I just think Rocky has the more classic type type feel, because it does have this kind of sort of Americana approach to it by by having the underdog become the ultimate champion. So that's really essentially what the movie is trying to get at ultimately. So if you enjoy that kind of setup, if you enjoy these kinds of simple underdog films, you will find this one to be really engaging and likable. However, if you're not into the whole Americana simplicity of being at the bottom of the food chain and going up and achieving something, then you may not enjoy this film a whole lot. But I do enjoy it for being that kind of traditional approach to achieving sort of quote-unquote the American dream, because I think certain things and aspects of the American dream are possible. It's just not in the way we envision them somehow happening, that they happen. So I think Rocky ultimately shows you that, and what I like is just how much of the film is generated towards these relationships, and how ultimately it is the relationships that Rocky is trying to fight for, and how he ultimately tries to find himself as a result too. So yeah, I think overall that's really all I can say about Rocky as a film. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them, but I don't think I can really say anymore. However, I will try and see if I can get a hold of these other films that somebody requested me to do. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything to where I could watch it, but I hope to find it soon, and then I can review those and put them in the classic category as well. But I think, though, that's really all I can say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody.